Hey there, I'm Jasmine Hathaway, one of the co founders of Professionals of After Loss Services. After someone dies, they usually leave behind a bunch of accounts, property, affairs, you name it. And usually there's one person responsible for managing all of that. If that person is you, you may be overwhelmed and wondering, I have the death certificate, now what? Okay, so step one is going to be to get organized. The whole point of this exercise is to save you a lot of time, energy, headaches down the road, and maybe even save you some money. So, a large part of your responsibility as this administrator or executor of the estate is sending in paperwork, filling out forms, and keeping a record of what you've done. So, the reason why you're going to get organized is to have all of the things that you need in one place and have a way to keep track of what you've done. And that may sound like a little bit of overkill. You may think that you're going to remember everything that you've done, but grief does weird things to your brain. So, I would just say go ahead and take the steps and get organized. It may actually end up helping a lot down the line. So the documents that you want to get in one place ideally would be marriage certificates, divorce paperwork, adoption paperwork, military records, all of these sort of like identifying documents for the person's life. A driver's license is handy, passport, immigration paperwork. You're going to know a little bit better than I will what kinds of things would fall into this category. But what you're also going to try to track down are paperwork that document property, if that is applicable in your case as well. So you're looking for title and registration of a car, mortgage paperwork, or a deed for a home, and that kind of thing. And so you're going to put those together in some kind of folder or organizing system along with the death certificates. Then you're going to have some kind of way to keep track of where you've sent copies of the death certificates, what the estimated time is of the paperwork being processed, and who you spoke to. It's really important to keep records like that because if you do need to go back to somebody who hasn't done what they said they were going to, those little details can really help you get things done. Step two is figure out if you'll need an attorney. Two big kind of vocabulary words that you'll need to know during this process are estate, which just refers to everything that the person owned and owed at the time of their death, and probate, which is the legal process of figuring out if the will is valid and appointing a person to be that legal administrator or executor. If you're not sure if the estate needs to go through the probate process, it's really important to talk to an attorney and find out. So each state has different rules. Sometimes there's a different process for small estates, for example. But it's better to be safe than sorry and get this process going as early as possible because it can sometimes be a long and protracted legal process. There's a lot of waiting around for different things to happen. So, as soon as you have the death certificate, then you can start talking to attorneys and get the ball rolling. Step three is assess finances. A part of your responsibility is getting a holistic picture of the person's financial situation. So, we're talking about tracking down information for every bank account, every investment, and every single debt that the person had in their name. So, one thing that you're going to want to do is look at statements if you can and track down what services are being paid for out of which account. Getting this information in order is going to be really helpful because you're going to want to know which things need to be updated, which need to be stopped, and which things need to stay the same for the time being, especially if you're going through probate. You can also collect the information needed to apply for benefits at this time too. That's another thing that you can often not do until you have the death certificate. So that is going to be different depending on which benefits you might be eligible for. The final thing to note about finances is just to be really careful before you close or freeze bank accounts, because especially if the person is owed a refund from insurance or deposit, for example, it can be really difficult to get that money if the original bank account used to pay is already closed or frozen. Step 4 is think security. If there are dormant accounts or an empty house or other property, now is a good time to think about securing those things. With property, you may want to think about changing locks, installing security systems, or at least notifying friends and neighbors to come by and check on it from time to time. Maybe start up a car or a boat or something like that. This is a really vulnerable time because usually people are much more vigilant of their homes or accounts. And after a person has died, it can take a while before anybody notices. Another step that you can take is forward the mail at this time. And you can also notify credit bureaus of the person's death so that the credit bureaus put a freeze on the accounts and prevent anyone from opening up new lines of credit. Everyone's situation is different. So it's really impossible to find one resource that's going to cover everything that you're facing. We do have some additional information. There's a more detailed checklist linked in the description below. And after loss professionals are a new and growing category of people that you may want to consider working with. What they do is come alongside executors or administrators of the estate and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. They're there to ease the burden of the administrative work that falls on the families after a loss. If you'd like to learn more, check out afterlosspros.com. Thanks for watching.